outsider participant.
Naka-join na sila.
Di ba? Naka-waiting room.
Anong topic natin? Webinar on export process. Anong coverage ng ano?
Love online shopping or getting parcels from loved ones abroad? Good news! You can now import your goods, tax and duty-free through the new Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, which raises the de minimis value from 10 pesos to 10,000 pesos. If a package doesn't exceed 10,000 pesos, no need to pay duties or taxes for it. Goods in commercial quantity can also be covered. De minimis importation also applies to regulated goods if you have an import permit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon po. Narinig niyo po ba ako? Narinig niyo ako?
Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon. Yes, we can hear you po.
Good afternoon, Idol.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon po, sir. Sir Khalil, are you there?
Yes.
Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon.
Good afternoon. So welcome sa Bureau of Customs NAIA. It is our pleasure na makasama namin kayo ngayong araw na to. And before we begin our webinar on exports customs processes, may we request everyone to respect our meeting protocols. I know we are on time. At 1 o'clock we started. And please turn your video on most of the time. Lalo po kung mag-present kayo o magsasalita, we will be more glad kung mas makita namin kayo sa camera. And please find a quiet space, especially kung magtatanong po kayo or meron kayong sasabihin. And please use the chat box po ng ating Zoom para mas maging lively and participative yung ating gagawing activity today. Please stay muted. Habang nagsasalita ang ating speaker, mas maganda ho kung naka-mute kayo at kung meron ho kayong concern or may gusto kayong sabihin, please use the non-verbal feedback po. So again, welcome sa Bureau of Customs Port of NAIA's, I think this is the 5th webinar activity ng Bureau of Customs NAIA. And we are happy to present to you our topic for today. It is also one of the concerns, and in fact, it is included in the 10-point priority program of our Commissioner Ray Leonardo Quirero on the streamlining of export clearance process. Karina, our
Yes,
secretariat. Okay. So our flow of the program for today is that we will request immediately our speaker to make the presentation, and your questions, any issues or concerns that you would like to raise, please do so by using our chat box. And also, if you want, we would like to hear your voice, your beautiful voice, so that we can hear from you. And after that, we will hear from our district collector, who is now currently having a meeting, and we will be glad to hear from her the closing remarks. Maliwanag po ba at naririnig niyo po kami?
Yes, clear from my end.
Yes po, sir.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes,
let's
sir.
proceed. And may I have the honor to introduce to you our speaker for today, Miss. Yes, before that, papakilala ko muna siya sa inyo. She is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration at the University of the East. Later pursued her graduate studies, obtaining a degree of Master's in Business Administration. She entered the Bureau of Customs in February 1992. She was also a member of various organizations like Harbor Toastmaster, Philcoman, and the Rotary Makati Gems. She attended various trainings and seminar, and also a member of a different committees drafting the implementing rules and regulations of our CMTA, the Republic Act on Customs, and the OSM Junior Representative of the Port of NAIA. She is also a member of the various technical working group of the Bureau of Customs, as well as the Department of Trade and Industry, Strategic Trade Facilitation. She conducts lectures with the Bureau as well with other universities. She entered Bureau of Customs as clerk too, and in 2011 was designated as the acting assistant chief of the Aircraft Operations Division, and she is now the designated acting port collector of Manila Domestic Airport. Let us all welcome our speaker or presenter for today, Miss Amalia B. Apolonio. Ma'am Ami, welcome po sa webinar ng Bureau of Customs.
Thank you, Sir Arnold, for the wonderful introduction. Naririnig po ba ako, mga ma'am and sir?
Yes po.
Yes, ma'am.
Naririnig po? Okay. Okay, do you
Yes
hear
po,
me loud
ma'am.
and clear?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
Clear.
So, maraming salamat po kay Sir Arnold for the introduction. So, welcome po sa ating lahat para po sa 5th webinar nga daw ng export procedure. So, I will be presenting the topics on the export process na ano po ba ang dapat na kinakailangang malaman ng isang exporter in order na yung kanyang mga export goods will be affected to be shipped out, to be carried on board. So first, I just would like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Khalil D. Mangadap, the Chief of the Export Division, who will be later answering all of the questions. So to begin with, I think Mr. Aaron Villanueva, can we have the presentation, please? So si Mr. Khalil D. Mangadap and Mr. Ronald Parado of the Export Division will be answering the questions later. So inaayos lang po yung ating PowerPoint para po magkaroon tayo ng clear understanding ano po ba ang export procedure. So kanina po nabasa ko parang meron tayong mga students from Olivares College. So welcome po sa ating webinar.
Good afternoon po, ma'am. Good afternoon po.
Hi sir, good afternoon po. So from Olivares College po, mga ano po tayo ng mga estudyante ng Customs Administration?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So, salamat po sa inyong pagdalo sa aming webinar. So, for the NAIA Customs Export Process, so, pwede pong paki-forward na please. So, Mr. Khalil D. Mangadap is the Chief of the Export Division, Port of NAIA. So, i-present ko lang po yung ating PowerPoint and then later kung ano man po yung mga naka-ready ninyong questions, ayan nga po, kagaya nga po ng nasabi ko kanina, ito po ay sasagutin ng ating mga personnel from Export Division. Sir Aaron? Sir Aaron, pwedeng paki-forward na po? Sir Aaron? So pag narinig po ba natin yung word na export, ano po ba ang number 1 na nasa isip po natin? So according to our secretariat, meron lang daw pong technical problem. So kasi 'di ba meron nga po tayong import and at the same time meron din po tayong export. I think ang import was discussed during the first or the second webinar nga po. So ngayon, we will be discussing the counterpart of the import, which is the export. So for our first slide, so what is export? So according to section 102 of the Customs Modernization and Tariff paragraph S, they defined export or the exportation as the wala na, balik muna tayo, sandali lang po. So, dinefine po niya ang export or the exportation as the act. Yung act daw po, documentation at ang pagpaproseso ng pagpapadala ng mga exported goods out of Philippine territory. So, meaning, lalabas po ito sa ating Philippine territory. So, meron po tayong tinatawag na outright exportation. Ito po yung mga export goods na mananatiling wala na po sa ating territory. So next po. So next, Ano daw po ang significance ng export? Ano ang kahalagahan ng export? So for the first significance of export, ito po yung development and promotion of export to maintain sustained and economic growth. So pag malakas daw po ang ating export, pag meron po tayong export, na maintain natin ang ating economic growth. At alam naman natin, kung meron tayong economic growth, magkakaroon tayo ng matatag na ekonomiya. Ma-maintain po natin at masusustain ang ating matatag na ekonomiya. So for the second significance, ito po yung tinatawag natin na pag-provide po ng basic means ng generating of the much needed foreign exchange. So through export, ito nga pong basic means of the generation of the much needed foreign exchange, ginagamit po ito para pambayad po sa ating mga national debt. And then for the third significance, ito po yung tinatawag natin na maintenance of a stable position in international reserves. So through export, ang stable position natin in international reserves, at ano po ba itong reserves na ito? So these reserves may be used for direct financing of international payment imbalances. So ginagamit po natin yan. Kaya kinakailangan po na magkaroon tayo ng matatag na export. So for the next slide po. Next slide. So for our next slide, ito po yung mga definition of terms. So bakit po natin kailangang i-discuss ang definition of terms? So ito pong mga definition of terms na ito po yung mga frequently used words, yung mga different terminologies na ginagamit po pag nagdi-discuss tayo ng export transaction. At ito pong mga definition na ito, it enables us to have a common understanding of the word. So nandun po tayo sa isang page, kaya kinakailangan muna nating i-discuss what are those definition of terms. So for our first definition of terms, ito po yung tinatawag natin na AEDS or the Automated Export Documentation System. Ano po bang AEDS? It refers to the system covering export shipment of PESA registered locator enterprise for loading at NAIA and other ports. So ito po yung sistema na ginagamit ng ating mga exporter from PESA registered locator. And then later, ang magiging loading nila will be at port of NAIA or papunta po sila sa ating mga ibang ports. So that is the definition of the AEDS. And for our next definition, the authority to load. Ano po ba itong authority to load or the ATN? So authority to load refers to the approval or the permission granted by Bureau of Customs for the loading of export goods on board the carrier. At ito po yung mga ini-stamp. So makikita po natin pag meron tayong export declaration, prior to the loading of their export goods, kinakailangang makita ng personnel or ng customs inspector from aircraft operations ng kanilang export declaration ay merong nakatatak na tinatawag natin na authority to load. So next po. Next is the boat note. So what is the boat note? Boat note is also a documents. Ito pong documents na to, nakakapag-effect po ito ng movement ng kargamento. So these documents accompanies the movement of the goods from point of origin to point of destination, at kinakailangan itong i-acknowledge ng ating customs officer sa kanyang destination. So ito po boat note, dala-dala po ito ng customs guard na kinakailangan pong ma-acknowledge sa kanyang destination. So pag ikaw po may customs guard ka, magkakaroon ka ng underguarding, kinakailangan na meron kang covering boat note. So for our next definition, ito po yung tinatawag natin na Certificate of Origin or the CO. So CO refers to the declaration of exporter and to be certified. Sini-certify po yan ng Bureau of Customs that export goods complies with the origin requirements specified na-specify po sa ating bilateral, sa ating regional, multilateral trading agreement in which kinakailangan ang Philippines is a signatory. So pag hindi po tayo signatory, hindi po tayo makakapag-issue ng Certificate of Origin. So next po. So next is the Certificate of Identification or the CI. Certificate of Identification is also a document to be secured upon departure of the goods to be exported and later will be subsequently brought back to the Philippines. So ito po yung mga lumalabas na mga products natin. And then later magkakaroon po siya ng tinatawag natin na pagbabalik or yung tinatawag naman natin ng importation. So lalabas po siya, pagbalik niya dito, magiging import siya, but nevertheless, kinakailangan niyang mag-secure na tinatawag natin na Certificate of Identification. So for our next definition, ito po yung Certificate of Inspection and Loading or the CIN. So CIN also is a documents issued by Bureau of Customs certifying, sinucertify na yung export good was inspected and actually loaded into the aircraft. Since nandito tayo sa airport, ang ating mode of transportation will always be the aircraft. So sinucertify po yan na yung goods na na-load sa aircraft is actually nagkaroon ng inspection. So next po. Next po. So next is the Certificate of Shipment. So ito po napaka-importanting documents na ito. Certificate of Shipment is also a document issued also by Bureau of Customs upon request. So kinakailangan magkaroon ng request ang exporter. So sinucertify ito, so nagkakaroon tayo ng certification for the nature of export goods, which could either be the full shipment kasi sometimes hindi tayo nagkakaroon ng full shipment. So andyan po yan na i-specify sa ating Certificate of Shipment. And then, meron din po tayong tinatawag na shot of shipment or the non-shipment. So, kinakailangan pong mag-issue ng Certificate of Non-Shipment ang Bureau of Customs upon the request of the exporter. So, next is the commercial invoice. So, commercial invoice also refers to a document between the buyer and the seller that provides description of goods to be sold, kung ano po yung amount at kung ano man po yung ibang relevant information of the transaction made between the buyer and the seller. So next. Next, ito pong mga containerized cargo. So containerized cargo refers to cargos contained on container. Siyempre, containerized cargo. So ito po, inilalagay po ito sa mga container vans na usually po, ito yung mga 40-footer na ginagamit, ito po yung sa mga seaport or other sealable transport unit. So ito po yung ginagamitan natin ng e-truck basta't meron po siyang seal. Ito po yung mga containerized cargo. And then for the conventional cargos, it refers to cargos that are handled in pieces. So hindi po siya sinasakay sa van. Hindi po siya pinapasok sa mga container vans, kundi nandun po siya in pieces, packages, crates, bags, and the same po ng mga na-mention na packages or in pieces. So next is the export clearance. So ano po ang export clearance? Kasi prior to our exportation, kung ang ating goods is regulated, kinakailangan po nating mag-secure na tinatawag natin na export clearance. So export clearance refers to the pre-exportation requirement. So requirement siya prior to the exportation na ini-issue po ng iba't ibang government agency other than Bureau of Customs. Kasi si Bureau of Customs will be only implementing. So mga implementor lang po kami. Kung ano po yung mga rules and regulations na ini-impose po ng iba't ibang government agency. So kinakailangan po yan na magkaroon muna tayo ng clearance with other government agencies to authorize the loading of the export goods. So next. Next is the export declaration. Ano ba yung export declaration? So ito po yung documents for every export shipment. So pag meron daw tayong export shipment, kinakailangan na covered ito ng export declaration, whereby yung exporter or yung kanyang duly authorized representative na kinakailangang mag-declare at mag-certify kung ano ba ang nilalaman ng export shipment. Makikita po natin yan sa tinatawag natin na export declaration. So for our next definition of terms, ito po yung tinatawag natin na goods kasi masyado pong broad ang word na goods. Kanya lang, this refers to the export. So it refers to the articles, yung mga wares, merchandise, or any other items which are subject of exportation. Kasi nga, ang pinag-uusapan natin is the export. Kaya yung goods pertains to exportation. So next naman po is the packing list. So packing list, it refers to a document. So isa din tong kind of document between the buyer and the seller containing details about the contents of a shipment or a package. So ito po yung nilalaman ng kargamento na kinakailangan covered siya ng tinatawag natin na packing list. So next. Next po. Sir Aaron, next po. Okay. So after the definition of terms, pupunta naman tayo sa mga general provisions embodied under CAW 8-2020. Ano po ba yung CAW 8-2020? It refers to the export cargo clearance formalities as well as the issuance of certificate of origin and the proof of origin. So for the first general provisions, ano daw po bang export declaration? So ito po pag-declare. So kung kanina clearance, ito naman po yung export declaration. So under general provisions, it stated that all export shipments, so sinabi lahat ng export shipments shall be covered. So sinasabi covered siya with an export declaration electronically lodged. So kinakailangan na niyang ma-lodge in an electronic form by exporters or any authorized representative to the Bureau's automated system. So what is Bureau's automated system as of now? Ito po yung tinatawag natin na E2M. And then, ang export declaration also is the description of goods. In the export declaration, which shall contain sufficient information, so kailangan meron siyang sufficient and specific information na ginagamit nga po para sa statistical purposes as well for the proper valuation and classification of the goods. So kinakailangan ng ating export declaration contains all those information needed as mentioned nga po sa general provisions. So next. Anong daw po ba ang dapat na nilalaman ng ating export declaration? So number 1, kinakailangan na meron tayong nakalagay ng delegation ng Export Coordination Division to Export Division to Port of NAIA, dito po sa MICP at sa POM, ng kanilang function nga po para sa pre-evaluation ng exporter and their export product. So meaning ngayon po, ang CO po, ang Certificate of Origin, ang signatory at yung mga pre-evaluation is with the Export Coordination Division because of the CMO 28-2020. But pertaining po sa mga outports, sila pa rin po ang pumipirma ng kanilang mga certificate of origin. So sino ba itong mga nag-a-avail ng preferential treatment? Ito nga pong tinatawag natin na Form A or the General System of Preferences. So meron tayong ASEAN Free Trade Agreement which is the AFTA. And then for the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement, ito po si AFTA. And then kung kay Korea naman, ASEAN-Korea Free Trade Agreement. Kung kay Japan, the Japan-Philippines Economic Partnership or the JIPEPA. So next po. Ito po yung mga availing preferential treatment. So nandyan din po yung tinatawag natin na ATIGA or the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement or the ASEAN, Australia, New Zealand Free Trade Agreement. So kung makikita natin ASEAN, Australia, New Zealand Free Trade, ito na po yung mga tinatawag natin na mga multilateral. And then yung ASEAN as a whole, yung Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, and then the ASEAN-India Free Trade Agreement. So ito po yung mga nag-a-avail ng preferential treatment. Para naman po sa mga walang preferential treatment, ito po yung tinatawag natin na white CO or yung Certificate of Origin for our general merchandise. Okay po. So next. Next po. So next, ano daw po ang iba't ibang classification ng ating exporters? So meron tayong exporters coming from customs banded warehouse operators. So sila, ito po, sometimes yung mga nagmamanufacture ng mga finished products and then later on for exportation. Meron din tayong exporters from free zone locators. Ito po yung sa mga PEZA or sa mga free zones na gumagamit po ng tinatawag natin na AETS. And then meron tayong mga third parties acting in behalf of the exporter. So ito po yung mga brokers, yung mga forwarders. Sila po yung categorized as third parties. And then meron din tayong tinatawag na mga non-regular exporters. So ito po yung mga one-time exporter. So kung meron po tayong one-time importation, meron din po tayong tinatawag na one-time exporter. Kaya classified sila as non-regular exporter. So, under general provisions, kinakailangan daw ang exporter should be registered with our client profile registration system. So, ang entities intending to export goods shall be registered with the Bureau's client profile registration system. So, kinakailangan kung ikaw is exporter, kinakailangan mong magkaroon ng registration with the Bureau's CPRS. Next po. Ano naman po ang mga clearance process involving export declaration? So ito po para sa ating mga export declaration. So it's stated here that lodgement of export declaration shall be done in Bureau's automated system. So kinakailangan nating magkaroon ng lodgement ng ating export declaration sa ating E2M. So in the event that electronic lodgement will not be available, manual processing of export declaration may be allowed. So pag wala po tayong mga electronic lodgement, pinapayagan naman po ang manual processing of our export declaration. And then, export declaration process manually must be electronically lodged as soon as practicable. So, kinakailangan pa rin nilang ma-lodge into electronic lodgement yung na-process na mga manual declaration. Ano po ba ang documentary requirements? So later, hihimay-himayin natin ang mga documentary requirements. So for our documentary requirements, kinakailangan na meron po tayong printout of the export declaration. So kinakailangan na meron tayong printout and then kasama po, ni-represent po sa ating export declaration yung tinatawag natin na proforma or the commercial invoice. And then kinakailangan meron din tayong packing list. Meron din tayong documents as may be required by rules and regulations. So, nandyan po yung tinatawag natin yung Certificate of Identification, yung Certificate of Inspection and Loading, yung Transfer Note, at saka yung mga applicable permits or clearances. So, ito po usually ang mga documentary requirements pertaining to our export goods. So, next. So, examination of our export goods. So, the following export shipment shall be subject to physical examination or non-intrusive inspection. So, ano po ba yung mga goods na kinakailangan na mag-undergo ng physical examination or the non-intrusive inspection? Ito po yung mga export shipment with derogatory information. So, kinakailangan niyang mag-undergo ng physical or non-intrusive. Meron din po tayong mga alert order issued for our export shipment. So, kinakailangan niya na merong conducted na physical examination. And then, ito pong mga export goods previously imported under re-export ban. Ano po ba itong mga export goods previously imported? And then, lalabas po siya under re-export ban. Ito po yung mga tinatawag natin na sometimes po yung mga musical equipment na ginagamit po ng mga artists. Papasok po yan dito sa atin as imported goods and later magpo-post po sila ng tinatawag natin na ban nga po and later na magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na re-exportation. Ito po yung category ng export goods previously imported. And then meron din tayong mga export goods selected for inspection under risk management system. So yan po, mag-undergo siya ng physical examination at yung mga tinatawag natin na return shipments. Itong mga return shipments na ito po babalik po ito doon sa origin. So next. So stuffing. Ano po ba yung stuffing? So yung stuffing po, ito po yung pagsasama-sama ng mga goods. So kinakailangan ang BOC personnel shall supervise or monitor the stopping of goods for export into the container at the exporter's premises. Ano po ba itong exporter's premises? Ito po yung nandun po sa ating mga customs bonded warehouse na later po nagkakaroon ng exportation. And then physical examination or inspection may be conducted before or during the stuffing of the goods for export. So prior po yan na magkaroon tayo ng stuffing, kinakailangan na may conduct ang physical examination. Next po. Next po. Ito, issuance of certificate of identification. Bakit natin kinakailangan mag-secure ng tinatawag natin na CI? Goods for export intended to be returned to the Philippines must be covered by a certificate of identification. So kung alam mo meron kang export goods and later alam mo na babalik itong export goods na to, which may be classified as importation, kinakailangan mo mag-secure ng certificate of identification and then ito ang ipresent mo sa ating assessment personnel. For the loading, BOC personnel must be present during the loading of the export shipment on board the aircraft. So ito po, functions po ito ng Customs Inspector of the Aircraft Operations Division na kinakailangang ma-witness niya ang paglo-load ng mga export shipments on board the aircraft. And then export shipments sent by air shall be under continuous underguarding na meron nga pong kasamang boat note during their transfer from the customs facility warehouse until they are received by Bureau personnel assigned at the airport terminal facility for loading on board the aircraft. So yan po, kinakailangan pag nanggaling siya sa CFW, underguarded siya ng ating customs guard. So for the types of export commodities, meron tayong mga tinatawag na prohibited export, meron tayong regulated export or the freely exportable products. Pag prohibited po, these goods are not allowed for exportation under existing policies of the government except for scientific or testing purposes. Yung mga regulated export products, ito po yung mga exportation of which are not prohibited but which require the export clearance from government agencies concerned prior to their exportation. So ito pong mga freely exportable products, ito po yung mga export goods, neither regulated nor prohibited. They may be effected without prior approval or clearance from any government agency. So ito po yung freely exportable products. Next po. So sa regulated export products listed in Customs Memorandum Circular 240-2020, ito po categorize yung mga products at kung saan government agency natin kukunin. For example, ang firearms, ammunitions, explosives, and firecrackers, kukunin po natin ito from the Office of the PNP or PNP-FEO. So ito po na-mention po yan dyan, yung mga sugar cane, sa Sugar Regulatory Administration, yung mga Philippine notes, mga legal tenders, kinakailangan nating mag-secure ng clearance from Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas para po sa mga lag, sa mga poll, sa mga lagpor. Kukunin natin ito sa FMB or the Forest Management Bureau. Para naman po sa mga export goods for nuclear and radioactive materials, kukuha tayo ng clearance sa PNRI. And then, yung ating mga optical and magnetic media, it's manufacturing equipment, parts, and accessories, kukuha tayo ng clearance from the Office of the Optical Media Board. Para naman po sa mga lead acid battery, kukuha tayo ng clearance sa EMB or the Environmental Management Bureau. Next. So, ayan po, na-mention natin yung gold from small-scale mining, kukuha tayo ng clearance from Bangko Sentral, and then para po sa ating mga bangus fry, sa mga alimango, sa mga corals, sa mga great white sharks, yung mga pating, yung mga mameng or butanding, kukuha tayo ng clearance sa BFAR or the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. And then para naman po sa mga saba, banana planting materials, kukuha tayo ng clearance from the BPI or the Bureau of Plants and Industry. Next po. Yan. Ito po under CMC 240-2020 yung abaka dito po sa PhilFIDA. And then yung bakawan, yung acacia, yung ratan, kukuha po tayo ng clearance sa FMD. And then ito po mga wildlife species, mga mga mammals, mga reptiles, mga flora, mga matured ito pong flora kukuha tayo sa BMB or tinatawag natin na protected areas and wildlife. At para nga po sa ating mga matured coconuts and coconut seedlings, kukuha tayo ng clearance from Philippine Coconut Authority. Next po. Next po. So ito pong mga products na ito, pag meron po tayong mga ganitong exportation, kinakailangan nating mag-secure ng clearance from those government agencies mentioned. So next po. So, ayan po. Ito din po yung mga regulated products na listed sa CMC 240-2020. I think may available ito sa ating website. Next po. So, dito naman tayo sa export documentation and procedure. Ano po ba yung mga needed documents at paano po ang tinatawag na procedure sa ating mga export products. So ang procedure po, processing of export declaration, sino po ang pwedeng mag-avail? Ito po yung mga exporter or their authorized representative, yung mga forwarder or the customs broker. So where it can be availed, ito po yung sa ating pong client.customs.gov.ph or the export division of the Bureau of Customs Port of NAIA located at the second floor of the PAL-PSI Building ICT, Pasay City. So nandyan po indicated ang kanilang contact number if you have questions pertaining to your export products. Next po. So ito po yung ating flowchart. General flowchart of the procedures in the exportation of goods at Port of NAIA. So number 1, si exporter or si forwarder magpre-prepare ng tinatawag natin na export declaration kasama ang commercial invoice, ang packing list at ang commodity clearance kung kinakailangan. Isasubmit niya itong document online through the NAIA Customer Care Portal System or the CCPS. So papasok po yan sa tinatawag natin na CCC. And then afterwards, ang CCC po magkakaroon ng issuance ng ticket and then pupunta po kay Export Division. Ang gagawin ng Export Division, marireceive nila yung ticket, so makikita nila yung Export Declaration. Anong gagawin nila kay Export Declaration? Kinakailangan nilang i-check at i-process ang kanilang Export Declaration, i-review at mag-i-issue ng authority to load, mag-a-assign ng office control number, magkakaroon ng segregation ng export declaration for submission to other government agencies, and then later, magkakaroon sila ng stamping ng authority to load para ma-effect ang loading ng ating cargo. And then later, magkakaroon ng examination and verification of the cargo if the same is in accordance with the corresponding export declaration and the authority to load. And later, magkakaroon sila ng signature on the airway bill if found in order. So after this procedure, ito pong ating processing will be forwarded. Pupunta na po si broker kay airline company. So ano naman po ang ginagawa ng airline company? So ang airline company, kinakailangan niyang mag-undergo. I-undergo yung export product. So kinakailangan niyang i-check ang weight, ang length, and width of the cargo. Magkakaroon, i-check niya yung documents and the cargo if in compliance with the IATA rules and regulations, at magpe-prepare sa airline ng tinatawag natin na cargo manifest. So after airlines, pupunta ang processing kay Aircraft Operations Division. So kapartner ng Export Division ang AOD. Ano ang gagawin ng AOD? Ang AOD will receive the manifest. So yung prepare na cargo manifest ng airline company together with airway bill from airline company. So magkakaroon ngayon ng exporting ng cargo from the warehouse papunta sa plane side para magkaroon tayo ng loading. So pagdating ngayon dito, magkakaroon sila ng receiving ng manifest and airway bills from the airline. And then, ang AOD will supervise the loading of cargos in the aircraft. So pagdating ngayon sa plane side, magkakaroon tayo ng loading ng export goods under the supervision of the Customs Inspector of the AOD. So prior yan sa loading, kinakailangang i-check ng AOD ang lahat ng documents na nanggaling kay Export Division. And then afterwards, magdi-depart na yung ating international departing aircraft. So this is the general flow chart of the procedures in the exportation of goods at Port of NAIA. So next. Next po. So ano naman daw po ang iba't ibang klase ng export transaction? So meron tayo ito yung mga regular export. Ito po yung mga exportation ng ating mga Philippine products. Meron din po tayong export under warehousing. Ito po refers to exportation of processed products from customs banded warehouse. Ito yung mga nag-undergo ng manufacturing. And then meron din tayong export from economic zone. It refers to exportation of processed products from PESA registered industry. Meron din tayong tinatawag na export under drawback. Ito sinabi dito, exportation of processed product in which duties and taxes of imported raw materials used are paid. So yung kanilang pumasok na mga imported materials, nagbayad sila ng kaukulang duties and taxes. And then later, pag nagkaroon ngayon ng exportation, kinakailangan nilang ma-secure itong mga payment nila ng kanilang duties and taxes. Kaya magkakaroon tayo ng drawback. Next po. So ano naman po itong transshipment? Yung transshipment po, ito po yung mga cargoes na hindi po intended for Philippines. So it refers to exportation of goods locally transported from a local port to the port of foreign vessel and aircraft. So kasi ito makakategory din ito as export, itong mga transshipment dahil magkakaroon tayo ng loading ng mga goods na hindi siya intended sa Philippine territory. And then export under ban or the conditionally free importation, ito po yung mga goods imported without payment of duties and taxes. So it will be returned to the exporting country in the prescribed period of or after the purpose of imported goods has been served. And then imported goods must be covered by a bond. So kinakailangan meron siyang kasamang security bond or any guarantee before it can be released by BOC custody. So ito po yung export under bond. So next po. So ito, himayin na natin ano po ba yung mga documentary requirements para sa ating regular export. So ito yung regular export, meaning wala po siyang kinakailangang clearance from other government agency. So kinakailangan meron siyang export declaration na meron pong kinakaukulang customs documentary stamps or the CDS. And then kinakailangan na meron siyang commercial invoice, performa invoice, and the packing list. So ito lang po ang documents na kinakailangan niyang i-present sa ating export division. Para naman po sa regulated export, so ayan din po, may export declaration with CDS, may invoice, performa invoice, packing list, but kinakailangan na niyang mag-attach ng commodity clearance kasi regulated ang kanyang export goods. Next. So ito po yung export under warehousing. So ito nanggaling ito ng banded warehouse. So meron tayong export declaration, meron tayong commercial invoice or the performa invoice, meron tayong packing list, and then naka-attach na po dito yung certificate of identification na nanggaling po from customs banded warehouse ng particular export premises nga po, and then yung certificate of inspection and loading and the boat note. So ito po magkakaroon tayo ng process ng underguarding from CFW papunta sa port of loading. And then ito naman mga export under free zone, ang ginagamit na dito is the automated export declaration system with PESA exit. So, pinaprocess po ito sa free zone. Kasama po yung proforma invoice, yung commercial invoice. Sabi daw na not mandatory. And then yung packing list, not mandatory also. Also, kasama din yung commodity clearance kung kinakailangan. So, next po. Ito yung under ban. So, of course, laging kailangan sa export declaration, yung proforma and commercial invoice sa packing list, the CIL side by trade control examiner, and then yung mga photos of the items, at yung affidavit, ito po yung mga documentary requirements under export under ban. So ito po yung mga transshipment, yung mga ship spare parts na naiwanan po ng barko and then later pupunta ngayon sa ibang country na susundan nila kung saan nandun ang vessel. So number 1, nandiyan po yung export declaration, proforma invoice, packing list. So kinakailangan covered ito ng letter request addressed to the district collector through the deputy collector for operations na nagre-request siya na ang kanilang transshipment or the ship spare parts is pupunta doon sa destination kung saan nandun ng vessel and kinakailangan meron siyang naka-attach na transshipment permit, may boat note, and then may routing slip or instruction from the office of the Deputy Collector for Operations at nandyan din po ang tinatawag natin na mission order from the Aircraft Operations Division. So next po. So ito po yung sample ng ating mga export declaration. So kung makikita po ninyo sa kanan, ito po yung tinatawag natin na AEDS at sa kabila naman po, ito po yung export declaration for other export goods. Next. Next po. So paano naman po yung procedure natin sa pag-i-issue ng authority to load and automated export declaration. So ito po yung mga nanggaling ito from the PESA zone or from the preferred zone. Ano po ang gagawin ng forwarder? Magsasubmit siya ng documents. And then ang receiving clerk ng Port of NAIA, ng export division from Port of NAIA, classifies export declaration as AEDS, non-BOI, BOI, or the manual PESA. So yung document processor para sa AEDS, para sa non-BOI, magkakaroon siya ng scanning ng PESA AEDS. Ito po yung ini-scan nila yung barcode na nandoon sa entry ng PESA ng AEDS. Magkakaroon sila ng scanning ng barcode for verification through value-added service provider. And then, magkakaroon sila ng checking and processing of the export declaration at kinakailangang maisiguro nila na lahat ng documentary requirements are complete. So, if found in order, mag-a-affix ng initial ang ating trade control examiner. Ngayon, ang gagawin ng chief or the supervisor, review and sign sa AEDS or EED and issue authority to load. So pag na-issue ang authority to load, ang ating releasing clerk, mag-a-assign ng office control number to the particular AEDS and then magkakaroon ngayon ng segregation ng copy para sa copy ng export division, ng DTI at ng Philippine Statistics Authority. And then, i-release niyang documents to the exporter or the authorized representative. So, ang forwarder ngayon, i-receive niya tong authority to load na nakatatak po sa ating AEDS and then, i-represent niya yung authority to load sa ating trade control examiner. Sa trade control examiner ng operations unit ng export division. So ito na po yung processing sa baba. Kasi ang export division is located at the second floor. So meron silang office dito sa bawat warehouse. So ang gagawin po ng trade control examiner assigned at the operations unit, ito nga po, mag-click siya ng button ng tag as transferred. And then magkakandak siya ng actual examination of goods against the description contained in the process documents, and then later pipirmahan niya yung airway bill na present ng forwarder. So yun po ang end process. So next po. So ito naman po, ano po ba yung documentary requirements pag mag-i-issue ng certificate of identification? So kinakailangan merong silang filled up certificate of identification with customs documentary stamps. So nandyan din yung kanilang filled up export declaration, ang kanilang commercial invoice, ang kanilang packing list, yung export clearance if applicable, yung photographs of the items na kinakailangan na ma-issuehan ng certificate of identification, and the duly notarized affidavit attesting that the products are subject for return, for repair, or under bond with a photocopy of a valid ID of the applicant. So kinakailangan nilang mag-submit na 3 set of those documents sa ating export division. So next. Next po. So ito po yung mga CI na to, applicable to dun sa mga products na subject for return, yung mga repair. So ito po yung sample ng Certificate of Identification na ini-issue po ng ating Export Division. Pinipirmahan po yan ng Customs Examiner, at the same time nandyan po ang Chief ng AOD, and then afterwards po pipirma ang Customs Inspector from the Aircraft Operations Division. Next. Procedures in issuing Certificate of Identification. So, ito din po, magpre-prepare ang forwarder ng export declaration, commercial invoice, at ng packing list. So, next po tayo. So, ito naman. Meron din tayong tinatawag na Certificate of Shipment. Meron tayong Certificate of Non-Shipment or the Certificate of Shipment. Marami pong requirements ito. So number 1, kinakailangan nilang mag-submit ng letter request. Kinakailangan din nilang i-submit yung Certificate of Shipment form with customs documentary stamps. And then approved Certificate of Identification and Loading. Ito po yung pirmado nga ng officer from AOD, and then approved export declaration na meron pong authority to load, yung export commercial invoice, export packing list, photocopy export clearance, yung mga photographs of actual cargos and the notarized affidavit, and the photocopy of the airway bill. So next, marami pong requirements pag ang nire-request is the issuance of the Certificate of Shipment. So for the next requirements, next slide po. So ang next requirements, ito nga pong photocopy of cargo manifest. So meron siyang cargo manifest, kinakailangang i-present yung certification from airlines that the cargo has been loaded in the aircraft. So kinakailangan nilang mag-secure ng certification. Yung certificate of landing, meaning nakarating yung export goods sa kanyang destination. And then photocopy of insurance bond or the cash bond, yung photocopy of import entry and revenue declaration, photocopy of import commercial invoice, photocopy of SSDT, yung photocopy ng import airway bill, and then photocopy of import clearance permit issued by other government agencies. So ito po yung sample ng ating Certificate of Shipment, Certificate of Short Shipment or the Certificate of Non-Shipment na pinipirmahan po ng Chief ng Export Division. So next. So ito po yung process ng pag-i-issue ng Certificate of Shipment. So si forwarder magsasubmit ng mga accomplished documents mentioned a while ago. Ang receiving clerk ng Export Division magre-receive ng documents requirements at kinakailangang i-ensure ng ating receiving clerk that all documentary requirements are complete. So ngayon, magkakaroon ngayon ng retrieval ng records ng file na nire-request ng ating forwarder. So magkakaroon ng verification whether the document submitted tallies with the documents on file. So i-verify nila kung sinubmit ni forwarder at yung file with the export division is nagtutugma. And then ngayon, yung ating assistant chief, i-receive niya yung certificate of shipment with the initial of the records officer or the administrative officer and the documents submitted. So magkakaroon ngayon ng review ng findings of the records officer or the administrative officer. So kung clear siya or in order, mag-a-affix siya ng kanyang initial sa ating certificate of shipment. So after this, pupunta yung documents to our chief export division. So ang gagawin niya, i-review niya ngayon itong mga documents. And then ang ating chief isassign niya yung certificate of shipment if in order. And then magkakaroon na tayo ng releasing. Pupunta siya kay releasing clerk na kinakailangan niyang mag-issue ng reference number. And then ilalag niya yung documents into the logbook. Kinakailangan niyang mag-retain ng copy ng whole set of documents for the export division. And then i-release niya yung certificate of shipment and other documents to the exporter or the duly authorized representative. And then, ang ating forwarder, kinakailangan niyang i-receive itong na-issue na certificate of shipment. So this is the procedure for the issuance of the certificate of shipment. And then, thank you for listening. So I will be turning the floor to the chief of the export division together with Ronald Parado for your questions.
Miss Ami. Thank you, Miss Ami.
Thank you po, Sir Arnold.
Thank you, Ami.
Sir Khalil, before you make meron ba kayong presentation? Yes, sir?
Wala na to.
Wala na. Okay. So again, thank you, Miss Ami Apollonia, for your very comprehensive presentation. Masyadong
Thank you,
malawak
sir.
at maraming mga detalye na na-discuss si Ma'am Ami. And for sure, our participants for today are very interested to give their questions. So, pwede ho namin kayong marinig kung gusto nyo, or yung iba ho, babasahin namin ng yung mga katanungan na initially nyo nang nabigay sa amin. So again, thank you po sa mga participants na nandito ngayon. And para ma-recognize natin, I think there are participants from the academy, sa College of Customs Administration ng Olivares College, and some BOC personnel and officials, as well as those processors, brokers, and importers, and even zone locators. I think there's a participant from Clark. The SFA Semicon nandito rin. Kahapon naka-meeting namin sila. So thank you for having you with us right now, and all the other group and participants. So before we proceed sa question and answer, let us have parang complete picture ng bakit ginagawa natin ang webinar ngayong mga panahon na to. So as early as 2018, when the commissioner, our current commissioner, Ray Leonardo Guerrero, assumed his office, nagkaroon ng studies. If you will recall, I think it is a TRS, a time release study, wherein ang import and export process ay nagkaroon ng pag-aaral kung gaano ba ka-efficient or gaano ba kalawak yung proseso ng customs, na kung saan is naapektuhan ang ating mga industries or involved or concerned or responsible sa process na to. So with that, they had nagkaroon ng analysis ng proseso ng Bureau, meron sa side ng import at meron sa side ng export. So one of the reasons kaya tayo nandito ngayon is also to assert and to affirm na yung bang proseso noon kumpara ngayon ay nagkaroon na rin ng pagbabago, nagkaroon ba ng improvement. So with your questions na ibibigay sa amin, kami po ay natutuwa at magagalak kung mas mabibigyan nyo ng linaw yung mga personal na karanasan ninyo sa pag-process sa export natin. And true enough, it was established during that time, in 2019, na makandak yung time release studies that more or less sa process ng customs mabilis, pero pagdating dun sa paglo-load, simula sa pabrika, simula sa production, merong mga panahon na nagkakaroon tayo ng concern. So we hope na sa pamamagitan na ginawa na presentation ni Ma'am Ami Apolonio, who is indeed an expert sa process ng customs, we welcome your questions po. And nandito po ang ating hepe, si Chief Khalil, as well as si Mr. Ronald Parado, ang ating mga export expert. Yan. EE. Andito din ang ating head ng Customer Care Center, si Sir Julius Altiche, na nabakasyon sa pag-represent ngayon. So hi Sir Julius. So maybe you will be asking, ano ba yung bago ngayon sa Bureau? Ano ba yung bago ngayon sa NAIA, lalo sa export processing? So with that, babasahin ko po yung mga naunang nag-send ng katanungan, and pwede hong sumagot si Ma'am Ami, si Sir Khalil, or si Sir Ronald, or si Sir Julius. Especially if this concerns yung process ng submission ng mga hard copy documents. So there is a question. I think also present today is Sir Gilbert. I think alam pido niya, Gilbert Medina ba? Nakita ko siya dun sa ano. Si Sir Gilbert is I think from Integral. Andiyan ba kayo, Sir Gilbert?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He's from Integral Industrial Management Corporation.
Yes,
Sa logistics siya, ano. Maybe we can hear from you, sir, yung tinanong niyo yung nauna dito para mas interactive yung ating process. Sir, please.
Sir, sorry. Wala po akong question.
Yung parang parang may sinabi ka dito dun sa na-send mo na initially. Nandito siya. What?
Sorry, sa affidavit. May tagtatanong.
There's a question. Why the processing in NAIA is very slow? Parang may ganun po.
Actually, sir, sa import po yan.
Sa import?
Medyo,
Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir. Opo.
Okay.
Akala
So,
ko import yan.
okay lang, sir. So, anyway, I'll just read it, sir. Maybe we can also hear from you, sir, kung anong experience nyo kung kahit mapa-import or export to.
Yes, sir. Regarding sa ating importation, kasi medyo matagal, lalo na pagdating sa, minsan may amendment. Ngayon, meron kaming amendment. Medyo matagal na, sir. Inaabot actually, yung amendment lang po ng description is almost 1 month na. Meron kaming ongoing amendment and sobrang tagal, sir. And then yung sa processing din, sir, medyo matagal pagdating sa PR Pags.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for opening it up. Anyway, though it is not actually related dun sa topic natin ngayon about export, we will try to respond to you as soon as mag-discuss lang muna kami ng ibang related sa export, then we will get back to you, sir. Since we thought that this question is related sa export. But we will get back to you, sir, as soon as to be part ng program natin ito.
Yes, sir. Thank you po.
Apo. From Sichil Ronas. Ramos. Sichil Ronas. Ang tanong naman niya, sinabi niya, what is the whole process of exportation in NAIA? So nakita naman nyo, doon sa mga naunang tanong nyo, Ma'am Ami, maybe you can reiterate yung nauna mong na-present na tinatanong ni Ms. Sichil Ronas, what is the whole process of exportation in NAIA? So if you have watched it, I think the presenter has presented it comprehensively. Ma'am Ami?
So para nga po dun sa kasagutan sa tanong ni Miss. Sino nga po, sir, yung may question?
Sichil Ronas. Miss Ronas.
So para po dun sa kasagutan sa question ni Miss Ronas, kinakailangan po, ma'am, ang number 1 requirements is meron po tayong export declaration. So yung export declaration and then later kinakailangan meron tayong invoice, meron tayong packing list, at kung ang inyong export good is classified as regulated, kinakailangan pong mag-secure ng tinatawag natin na clearance from other government agencies. So ito pong mga itong pre-present po sa ating export division, at sa ngayon po, sinasubmit na nga po online through the CCPS and then later pupunta po yan sa export division para po ma-process ang inyong export goods at magkaroon po tayo ng tinatawag natin na approval para ma-load or yung pagtatatak nila ng ating authority to load in order na ma-load ang inyong export goods sa ating outgoing aircraft. So yung ganun po ang process ng ating mga export goods at Port of NAIA.
Thank you, Ms. Ami. Maybe this is also related to sa naunang tanong from Miss Arlene Doroha. I think she's a manager from Batangas. What is the new procedure of processing export documents through portal? Ano daw po yung new procedure of processing export documents? Maybe we can hear from Sir Julius as well as from Sir Khalil for this question po. Sir Julius first, yung sa paggagamit ng portal.
Yes po, good afternoon po sa ating lahat. Maraming salamat po sa kanilang katanungan. With regard po doon sa usage po ng portal, we are all guided po by the OCOM memo number 27-2021. Whereas ang sinasabi po doon, dapat lahat po ng goods declaration will be processed or will be filed on the customer care portal system po. So yun po yung utilization. With regard po sa documentation, I think Sir Khalil or Ma'am Ami, we can answer for that po. Maraming salamat po.
Sir Khalil? Sir Khalil?
Yes. Si Ronald ang pasasagutin ko.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir Ronald.
Documentation. Yung bagong
Hello po, good afternoon po. Una po, punta po kayo doon sa stakeholder po. Visit nyo po yung ating website na BOC customs.gov.ph or punta po kayo sa client.customs.gov.ph. Then po, kailangan nyo po na doon ay mag-register po kayo as a user or mag-login. Then po, pag naka-login na po kayo, type nyo po yung export. Then po, enter nyo po yung export reference number. Then after po nun, mag-upload na po kayo ng mga following documents like po sa regular export po is yung export single administrative documents, proforma invoice, packing list. Saka depende po yan kung nari po ay export under warehousing, iba po yung mga requirements po niyan. And then, after nyo pong ma-upload, kailangan po, i-click nyo po yung green button to create the ticket and upload na po yung documents. Yun po yung process. Paano po yung gagamitin yung sa BOC stakeholder na ticketing po. Then dito po sa export division, abangan po natin yung ticket. Then yung pong personnel na assign natin dito po sa CCC po ng export, siya po yung mag-a-assign ng ticket doon po sa mga examiner. And then after na examination, diretso na po yun sa supervisor para po issuance of authority to load. Ganun po. Release na po yun. Cargo. Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Ronald. Thank you. By the way, we also have listeners and nag-review din po sa Facebook page natin, Facebook page live po. And yung mga naunang katanungan po nila from Customs Broker Gogoray Tapia Lonzaga. Good afternoon po. Necessary po ba na exactly the same ang address na nakalagay sa invoice, packing list, and permits such as street, building, and so on? Or okay lang po hindi magkatugma ang address as long as present ang city and country address? Salamat po. Sa Facebook live po natin to na post ni Tapia Lonzaga, Customs Broker.
Kailangan pa.
So yung tinatanong po niya, yung mga nakalagay sa invoice, sa packing list and permits, dapat po ba consistent ito sa ibang mga address na nakalagay nila? Sige po. Anybody from the group po?
Siguro Sir
Hello po.
Ronald ang makakasagot.
Sige, Sir Ronald.
Hello po. Si
Go ahead,
Ronald
Sir
Parado
Ronald.
po ito. Yes po. Ma'am, sir, kailangan po talaga is kung ano po yung nakalagay na address po natin sa invoice, sa packing list, yun po yung lalabas po doon sa E2M o sa ED po natin. Kasi meron po tayo ngayon na Customs Administrative Order na pag nagkaroon po ng clerical error or discrepancy, may pagbayad po tayo ng 5,000 pesos per box. Kaya kailangan po talaga na same po yung description natin sa invoice packing list at yung i-declare natin po sa export declaration po natin. Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Ronald. I think sana po na-clarify natin yung tanong na yon. at nasagot po ng maayos. Thank you, Sir Ronald. Thank you po sa question. Ito po. May tanong din po from Sheldon King. Na una na po siya nag-send. Is it possible that the export processing will be in portal just like in import?
Sige po sir, sagutin ko po ang question niya kung ang processing daw will be at the portal. I think pinaprocess na po yan ngayon sa Port of NAIA na kailangan ang submission will be through portal. So pupunta po yan kay CCPS and then i-issue sila ngayon ng ticket papunta sa ating export division. Implemented na po.
I just want to add lang po, Sir Arnold.
Go ahead, Sir Julius.
With regard to sa clarification po siguro, parang pagkakitinig ko po sa questions is, doon po ba ipaprocess sa portal? Actually po, yung ating mga offices po, we just use po yung portal para po doon, tama po yung sabi ni Ma'am Ami, na for submission po ng mga documents. Whereas to avoid to implement zero contact policy na rin po at the same time, pursuant to CMO in 2020. So yun po is submission po, but whereas rest assured naman din po, may updates naman din po doon. It's just like an email na yung ating stakeholder po will be updated po based po doon sa ticket na na-issue po sa kanila. Thank you.
Bruce, may katanungan ulit tayo from, I believe this is a question kinote ni Sir Mark Almase. Questions po from stakeholders. Number 1, prior to exportation po, ano po ang mga formalities ang dapat na i-comply? Number 2, required po ba magpa-accredit bago mag-export? If I will not be regular exporter, what will be my option po para makapag-export? Yeah, I think na-mention to initially ni Ma'am Ami. And anybody?
Okay po.
Hello.
Ano daw po ba ang requirement, ang mga formalities na dapat niyang i-comply? So first po, ang dapat po niyang i-comply is kinakailangan niyang mag-register sa ating client profile sa ating CPRS sa Bureau of Customs. Yan po ang number 1 requirements. And then afterwards, pag nakakuha na sila pag nakapag-register na sila, and then magkakaroon na po sila ng accreditation, so the same process din po ang mag-a-apply na kagaya nga po ng na-discuss natin kanina. And then, ang next question niya, if I will not be a regular exporter, what will be my option? So I think ang option niya, kung one time siyang exporter, hindi siya regular, I think magsasubmit siya ng letter request addressed to our district collector. Kinakailangan niyang mag-secure ng approval para sa kanyang export goods kung hindi siya regular exporter. So any addition po, Sir Ronald?
Hello ma'am. Ma'am, tama po yung sinabi po ninyo na yung kung ikaw ay first time mo, pwede ka mag-file ng first and last. Kailangan lang sumulat sa Office of the District Collector para approval po. Tama po yun.
Thank you, Sir Ronald, Ma'am Ami. There's also a question from UCC, John Bert Gerson Taiko. What will happen if the imports goods are prohibited and restricted? What are the procedure of customs particular to this? What will happen if the exports or imports goods are prohibited and restricted? What are the procedure of customs particular to this?
Hello po.
With
regards po dun sa what will happen if the export goods are prohibited and restricted. Ma'am sir, kung yan po i-export niyo at prohibited po yan, automatic po yan na masisisure po yan. Kasi pag prohibited po, wala po talagang permit yan, hindi po nagbibigay po ng permit yan. Kung restricted naman po, upon compliance po na bigyan po ng permit o special permit from other government agencies, pwede po yan na i-export po. Kumbaga, pwede yan mga scientific purposes, for study purposes, pwede po yan. Regular procedure pa rin po yun. I-attach lang po yung commodity clearance in case po na yan po ay restricted. Pero yung prohibited po, hindi po talaga pwede mag-export po. Mayroon po tayong guidelines dyan. Please visit po yung CMC 240-2020. Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Ronald. Meron pa mga katanungan galing kay, I think this is from Good PM po. Required from Christian Angelo Lambi. Required po ba na may notarized authorization letter if hindi mismo ang exporter ang nakapirma sa ED at nag-process ng ED? From Christian Angelo.
Sagutin ko yan. Magandang hapon po. Magandang hapon po lahat ng nag-join ngayong webinar. Napakaganda po nung tanong kasi paratiho namin na i-encounter yan. Unang-una po, tingnan natin ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng declarant. Kasi madalas ho, nakasanayan po kasi na kung sino-sino na lang yung piperma ng export declaration, kung sino-sino na lang yung magpaprocess ng documentation ng isang exporter. Ang sinabi po ng ating CMTLO, ano ang declarant? Ang declarant po yung magla-lodge ng goods declaration with the Bureau of Customs. Una, yung importer being the holder of the bill of lading, or pangalawa, yung exporter may-ari ng goods na i-ship out o custom broker acting under the authority of the importer or from holder of the bill. At pang-apat po ay person duly empowered to act as agent or attorney in fact for each holder. Napakahalaga po ito na maintindihan natin kasi madalas pagka hinahanap po namin, kin-complain pa kami kasi ang dami-dami daw naming hinihingi. Bakit daw ang tagal-tagal na nagpa-process, hindi naman sila hinihingian? No, mayroon 20 years na, wala naman daw hinihingi na ganun. Nais ko pong maintindihan ng ating mga exporter o mga stakeholder. Pag wala po kayo doon sa apat na sinasabi o kung limiin natin kung ano yung apat, kung hindi ikaw mismo ang exporter na nag-process o nakaperma sa export declaration o ibang dokumento ng for export, ang ibig sabihin po nito kung iba ang umakto dyan, mayroon po tayong tinatawag na agent-principal relationship. So yung agent-principal relationship po, una, kung ang exporter ay individual na tao, kailangan po natin ng SPA, Special Power of Attorney, para ma-represent mo yung tao. Kasi kung anong liability ng agent, ay liability ho ng principal. So hindi pwede yung verbal-verbalan lang. Kadalasan kasi pumunta dito, sasabihin lang, ako declarant. Tinanong mo, how come you are the declarant? Ikaw ba ay officialis, accountable person ng isang korporasyon o ng exporter? Sasabihin, hindi, kami lang nagpa-process, declarant ako. Pag tinanong mo, siya ay sa isang brokerage o forwarder, ano ka doon? Kadalasan ano lang, kung hindi man processor, errand boy lang. So wala hong authority to represent the exporter. Pangalawa, kung ang exporter naman po ay juridical person, kung yan po ay korporasyon, kailangan po na hingan po natin ng notaryado, yung tanong ng nagtanong kanina, notarize. Bakit to notarize? Any action of the corporation as exporter, as a juridical entity, must be through the board. So, Kanya po, kung hindi po doon accountable person ang nakaperma, ni-delegate nila yan, ibang tao. Kakailanganin po natin ng notaryado na mayroong secretary certificate, na mayroong board resolution na that certain forwarder ay inauthorize ng kampanya na mag-process ng kanilang export documentation. Hindi pwede yung verbal lang na sasabihin. Kadalasan ho, mga multinational company, nakapirma, hindi naman broker. So, hindi siya licensed broker, hindi siya nakarehistro sa Bureau of Custom as broker, wala talagang authority. Kaya hinihingan po namin na nire-require namin na kailangan ito ay notaryado. At uulitin ko po, parati kong sinasabi sa inyo, kung kayo ay magpanotaryo, hindi doon sa picking notaryo. Mamaya i-discuss ko mamaya kung bakit. Ito po ay hindi bago kasi sinasabi bago. Hindi pa ho tayong pinapanganak. Ay mayroon na pong batas on law on agency. Na para magkaroon ng agent relationship, mayroon pong pagbasihan yan. Hindi pwede na mag-represent ka lang, pwede ka na mag-sign ng legal document. Tandaan niyo po, ang export declaration, legal document po yan. At ang sinasabi ng ating Cebu, kung ang representation mo ay kailangan written, ang authority mo dapat ay hindi verbal, written din, may panggagalingan. Napakasimple lang po ng explanation ko sa inyo.
Yes.
I-disregard na po natin yung mga sinabi kong batas, mga basis. Pag kayo ho pumunta sa
Hello? Sir Khalil, nawawala ka? Hello? Sir Khalil? Hello? Anyway, I think Sir Khalil has responded comprehensively. Sir Khalil, thank you for the answering the question. Maliwanag po yung sinabi niya, kailangan naka-notaryo at properly represented po yung ginagawa nating activities. Kung kailangan na may SPA ito, dapat naka-attach po yung mga dokumento na nararapat. So since ang oras po natin is limited, minarapat po natin na entertain pa rin yung ibang questions with the indulgence of Sir Khalil and also with Ma'am Ami. May question pa rin po dito with regards po dun sa export process natin. Yung sa na-present nyo, Ma'am Ami, kanina, may related na question po siya dito with particularly sa na-raise na concern ni... Teka, nawawala siya. Yung processing po ba ng CO is nasa NAIA pa rin o nasa ibang office na? Ma'am Ami?
Okay, thank you, Sir Arnold. So yung for the processing of certificate of origin, ito po ibinalik na po sa ating Export Coordination Division. Because nga po of the CMO 28/2020, ibinalik na sa Export Coordination. Kasi prior to that, meron pong na-issue na CMO 11/2010 na nagkaroon po ng temporary delegation ng processing at ng pre-evaluation ng ating mga certificate of origin sa Port of NAIA, sa MICP at sa Port of Manila. So ang pagpo-process po is na i-delegate nga po sa iba't ibang port. Ngayon, sa paglabas po ng CMO 28/2020, yung mga pinoprocess po na CO sa NAIA, POM, and MICP is naibalik na po sa ating Export Coordination Division. Kaya ang processing po ng certificate of origin is through the Export Coordination Division. Yun po, Sir Arnold.
Thank you, Ma'am Ami. Thank you po din sa nagtanong.
In addition lang po, sir, with regards doon sa sinabi ni Ma'am Ami.
Sige. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sige, go ahead, Sir Ronald.
Yes po.
Sige, go
With
ahead.
regards doon sa CO na tinanong kanina doon sa issuance dito sa NAIA, pwede silang pumunta sa Export Coordination Division doon sa Office of the Commissioner or dito sa Buendia, sa PhilExport. Kasi meron po ng tao ang Export Coordination Division na pwedeng pumirma po doon sa area na yun, sa PhilExport po. And clear ko lang po regarding din po do sa CMO 28-2020 is yung mga provincial port, yung mga provincial po na mga exporter, pwede po silang humingi or magpa-issue ng CO doon po sa mga probinsya, mga Cagayan de Oro or other ports po natin. Hindi lang po dito sa Metro Manila. Dahil yung Metro Manila po, yung NAIA, Port of Manila, MICP po, ay sa export coordination na po uli dahil po doon sa effect ng CMO 28-2020. At may clarification na rin po dyan na sinend din po ang DepCom po natin regarding po dyan sa issuance na yan po. At kung doon po sa sinasabi nila na kung babalik, siguro po sa palagay ko, pwede po silang sumulat sa ating mahal na commissioner through the Deputy Commissioner of AOCG na baka naman pagbigyan po sila sa gusto po nila. Or
Thank you, Sir Ronald.
Thank you po.
So another question from JPAC Logistic na Wendelin Osia. What are the additional regulations, policies that have been implemented since this pandemic have started? It is also related to the questions of Ricky Kars. What's the new policy implemented by BOC Export Division? Maybe we can ask Ma'am Ami and Sir Julius, ano yung mga innovation, ano yung mga plano, ano yung mga activities, ano yung mga improvement na nagawa na natin with regards sa export process. Thank you. Ma'am Ami, please.
Okay, so para nga po sa ating pagproproseso ng ating mga export goods, ito nga po nagkaroon nga po tayo ng filing sa ating ng filing nga po, ng online filing through our CCPS para nga po ma-avoid yung ating face-to-face interface. So kaya nga po nandun na ngayon ang pagpa-filing sa portal and then mag-i-issue po sila ng ticket papunta sa ating export division. So any additional po, Sir Julius?
Thank you po, Ma'am Ami. Thank you, Sir Arnold. Maraming salamat po dun sa nagtanong. Ayun po, patuloy po, no? Rest assured po, patuloy po tayo nagkakaroon ng innovation po na ginagawa. Lalo na po itong pandemic po. Ito po yung naging way po, siguro sa positive ng mga pangyayari na during pandemic, ito po yung naging magandang way po kung saan dun po sa online process po natin, na iwasan po natin yung face-to-face na yon. At the same time, yung health protocols po, no, nasunod din po natin doon. Kasi instead na lalabas ka po ng house, ngayon po it's just a web-based lang po. Whereas pag-create mo po ng ticket at na-upload mo po yung mga concerned documents mo, pwede na po ito i-process ng Bureau of Customs. It's an actionable documents na po kasi at the same time. So yan po ay sa pamumuno po ng ating Puting Commissioner at ng ating dear collector po dito sa NAIA, si Collector Amir.
Apo. Siguro I will also add po as one of the last question naman po ito. It is included in the BOC 10-point priority program of the Bureau na i-streamline yung export clearance process. So maliwanag po doon ng objectives na isinama ng ating commissioner is yung finalization of CMO on export clearance process, as well as yung conduct of training on export process, and yung creation ng export clearance system. So for 2021 to 2022, it is included in the 10-point BOC. Pag tinignan niyo po sa website natin, makikita niyo po doon yung programa ng ating commissioner na ikakascade to hanggang sa port level po, na kung saan ini-streamline po yung export clearance process. So yung in utilizing the ICT enabled systems and modern techniques in the processing of export declarations, issuance of certificates of origin and proof of origin. In addition, BOC will establish a comprehensive reporting and monitoring for all export transactions. So these initiatives, we were hoping na talagang fully implemento by 2021. So pag binisita niyo po ang aming website, ang customs.gov.ph, nakalagay po doon yung nakasama sa export clearance process po natin, yung pag-streamline. So kasama po to sa BOC 10-point priority program natin. I think we have covered yung export process. Malawak at marami pang dapat na pag-usapan tungkol sa export clearance process and sa mga procedures and mga regulations. And we're hoping na hindi lang po ito yung magiging huli nating pagsasama at pagkikita through webinar na to. And we are hoping na sa mga susunod pong activities, meron na tayong parang advanced, basic, parang basic pa lang itong ating pinag-uusapan ngayon. And we are thankful na nandito kayo ngayon at nagbigay kayo ng oras para kahit pa paano, madaanan natin yung export clearance process at saka yung mga salient definitions, mga termino, pag tayo po ay magpaparating or gagamitin natin ang export process natin. So may we call on Ma'am Ami before we call our district collector for the closing remarks. Meron pa po ba kayong mga tanong bago tayo
Sir, meron pong last question.
Sige, go ahead, Karina.
Send ko po sa Viber.
Sige, go ahead, Karina.
Sir, nasa Viber niyo po sa group.
Okay. May tinanong si Ma'am Beth Pableo, how about the SPL used by departing passenger with commercial goods? Kindly expound on this for the information of all the parts. Ma'am, thank you. Ma'am. Nandito ang ating isa sa pinaka-expert natin pagdating sa arrival operations at isa sa mga sasabihin ko, nanay ng customs processes. Hindi ito napapagod. May we recognize our nagtatanong ngayon na kung saan expert din. Walang iba, si Ma'am Beth Pableo. Hindi ito napapagod. Grabe to. So thank you, Ma'am, for raising that question. Mahalaga po to kasi kung ako, papunta ako ng US or Europe at may dala akong laptop at dadaling ko ito pabalik, ano ba yung proseso? Kung may dala akong alahas, may dala akong relo na nabili ko dyan sa tabi-tabi, ito ba ay kailangan ko pa rin ideklara? So maybe we can ask Ma'am Ami, kasi galing ka sa aircraft operation, tsaka si Sir Ronald.
Sir, I think the best person to answer the question is Mr. Ronald Parado about the SPL.
Yes, Sir Ronald, go ahead.
Hello po. How about the SPL departing passenger with commercial goods? Ma'am, sir, with regards to sa commercial goods, much better po siguro pagpailin natin sila ng export declaration po dito. Kasi po, well-defined naman po sa Customs Administrative Order 8-2020 kung ano lang po yung mga goods na pwede po doon sa SPL. Kasi po nakalagay po doon is yung mga human remains, tapos po nakalagay din po doon yung diplomatic shipment, foreign goods. Kumbaga ma'am, naka-well-defined at naka-enumerate, yun na po siguro ang dapat po nating sundin. Dahil commercial in quantity naman po yung sinasabi nyo na passenger, kumuha na lang po sila ng export declaration dito po sa office namin. Thank you po.
Ma'am Beth Pableo.
Okay, thank you. Kasi it's really very important na i-inform natin yung ating transacting public so that kung gusto nilang magdala ng commercial goods, at least doon muna sila pupunta sa export division.
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Sir Ronald and Ma'am Beth Pableo. Sige, entertain ko na rin yung ibang nagtanong through FB natin sa Facebook natin. From William Chu, from PMI student, tanong ko lang po, kung di na i-release or na-secure yung certificate at concerned agency, yung clearance, pwede ba siya as tentative assessment muna?
Wala po tayong ganun sa export po. Kailangan po talaga secure yung permit.
Okay. So, meron pa ba? Teka, basahin na natin. Any question po from the audience, participant natin? Pwede ho namin marinig yung boses nyo. I think before we end our webinar today, may we request everyone to turn their video on. Mag-picture taking lang po tayo para souvenir ho namin sa inyo. We will issue an e-certificate. So, doon po sa chat box namin, pakisuyo po na fill upan niyo po yon para makapag-issue po kami sa inyo ng certificate of attendance dito sa particular activity na to. Miss Karina?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You may take our photos.
May I request everyone to open your video for the photo opportunity po and look at the camera. We have 2 pages, so I'll be counting po. Requesting every participants to open their camera or video for the photo opportunity. Capturing page 1. Please look at the camera in 3, 2, 1. Captured. Hold on. Capturing page 2. Kindly open your video or camera in 3, 2, 1. Capturing. Captured. Thank you. Before we leave, kindly fill up the e-form for your e-certificate that we will be issuing. Yes,
Karina, since we still have, I think, 5 minutes before we part our ways, maybe request, maybe I can request Sir Khalil, to send us his message as closing remarks. And while others are making fill up po dun sa form. Sir Khalil, just a short message for us to be able to close this activities.
Maraming
Thank you, Sir
salamat.
Khalil.
Yes, maraming salamat po. Lalong-lalo po sa mga nag-participate sa pamunuan ng Bureau of Customs NAIA sa pangunguna ng aming mahal na kolektor, Mimel Talusan, at sa bumubuo ng webinar na ito na nag-organisa. Kami po sa Export Division, napakalaki po ng kinaharap namin na hamon sa pagtugon sa mga ipinapatupad na mga pinapatupad na reforma ng ating mahal na komisyoner. Pinipilit po namin na masunod ito. Sa tulong niyo po na mga stakeholder, kung kayo po ay may mga concerns sa Export Division, ay marapat po na idirektan niyo na po sa amin. Bukas po ang aming opisina hanggang gabi para tugunan ang inyong mga pangangailangan, ang inyong mga katanungan o anumang tulong na inyong kailangan. Hinihingi namin na sana naman huwag agad-agad na mag-complain. Iparating muna sa amin at mapag-usapan namin at kami naman po ay nakahandang tumulong. Kami po dito sa Export Division NAIA sa gabay ng aming mahal na kolektor ay sinisikap po namin na mapaglingkuran kayong lahat na naaayon po sa batas. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Sir Khalil. So, on that note, maraming salamat po sa ating lahat. Sana po ay lagi tayong nasa mabuting kalagayan at magkita-kita tayo po muli sa susunod na webinar ng Bureau of Customs Port of NAIA. On behalf of our District Collector, Ma'am Carmelita Mimel Talusan, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Stay safe. God bless.